Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137.
Hello, listeners. Nick here with your forecast for the weekend of August 8th, 2026. Friday, mostly in the clear under partly sunny skies. Slight chance of rain showers or thunderstorms. High in the mid-60s. Wind northwest shifting west at 15 to 30 miles per hour early, decreasing to 5 to 20 miles per hour, possibly becoming light and variable at times. Friday night, in and out of the clouds under mostly cloudy skies. Scattered rain showers and isolated thunderstorms. Low in the mid-50s, wind west at 5 to 20 miles per hour, possibly becoming light and variable at times, increasing to 15 to 30 miles per hour. And Saturday, mostly in the clouds under mostly cloudy skies, rain showers with a chance of thunderstorms. High in the low 60s, wind southwest shifting west 15 to 30 miles per hour early, increasing to 20 to 35 miles per hour late. So starting out nice on Friday, but looking kind of unsettled and warm, relatively speaking, going into Saturday. Stay safe out there, happy hiking, hope you can crush some peaks.
Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and beyond. Here are your hosts, Mike and Nick.
Okay, we're recording. I just had to eat my vitamin, Nick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing right now?
I have my gummy vitamins. So
You keep them at your desk so you remember to take them every
I keep
morning.
them at my desk. Yeah, it's like a big there's like a couple hundred vitamins, and then every time it gets low. Right now, I'm almost at the end of it. I get very excited at the end. I'm like, oh, I accomplished something. I finished my bucket of vitamins. But it also makes me ponder how many more jars of vitamins do I have left before I die?
That's so depressing.
And sometimes I'll just do the math and I'll be like, all right, there's 170 vitamins in there. I take one a day. I might only have 20 bottles left, Nick.
Two bottles a year, right?
Yeah, about so. Anyway, so Nick got corrected by a listener, and I love this. I love anytime anyone gets I don't like feedback, but I do like feedback when it has to do with Nick or Stomp or anybody else, just not me. But he and I was thinking this the whole time we recorded last week, but he kept calling Pamela. Yeah. And I didn't correct him because I wanted the listeners to get the pitchforks out. So, and sure enough, somebody did. So we appreciate you, listener, for
thank you.
Always correct Nick, never correct me.
It was funny too. I replied and I was like, "Oh, thanks for the correction," laughing emoji. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. Where I'm a big fan." I'm like, "Don't worry about it." I want to be like, "Have you seen how we are with each other on the podcast and in reality?" He posted an Instagram reel of me how to learn riding a bike at 35. So I think we're okay. That's not good. I have a pretty thick skin. But thank you for calling it out. We appreciate it. I even Googled it after. Yeah, I was wrong. It's Pamela. So Pamela Peak. Yeah.
Do better, Nick. Do better. All right.
try.
Welcome to episode 241 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week, Jake and Peter are back. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. They're going to break down part 2 of our recent Baxter State Park trip, where we cover a hike to North Brother, and we did a little hike out to North and Little Niagara from Daicy Pond Campground. Peter, is that how you say it? Daicy?
Correct. Yeah, that's how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to correct us.
Yeah, I hope you get called out.
We'll see. Plus, Jake and Peter recently got out to Vermont to hike with our sometimes SLASR co-host Dave Shits in the Woods. So they'll give us an update on all things Dave, and then they can also talk a little bit about the Vermont section of the AT that they went on. I think you guys did. Would you do Killington?
Yeah, Killington and Pico.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, we have a history segment on the Wakefield, New Hampshire UFO ice hole mystery from 1977. This is a direct connection to some of SLASR's own family members, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll do a little. We always like strange phenomena, so we'll do that. And then Mount Washington is setting up twin tower lights to commemorate 9/11. Search and Rescue News has been busy with a hiker getting lost on Mount Willard. I have theories on this one, guys, and it doesn't have to do with like an actual rescue, but I have some theories on this one. And then, all right, where are we here? So we had Mount Willard. We got injured hikers on Tuckeman Ravine Trail, Lion's Head, Kinsman Ridge, and sadly there was a fatality on Welch Dickey. So all this plus a recent sunrise hike and trail maintenance update on Baldface Circle Trail. And I can rate going up the South Baldface ledges via headlamp for you guys and let you know how that is. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick.
Let's get started.
Let's get started!
So before we started recording, Peter was looking at the script. We had shared it with him, and he's like, I didn't realize you guys read directly off of it. The only time we really read directly off the script is when we do the intro, and even that I try to ad-lib a little bit. Right, Nick?
Yeah, sometimes you just forget to do the intro. You don't have time to. So you've gotten pretty good doing it off the cuff, I think.
Yes.
If needed. Yeah, you whip it out.
Anyway.
No, I was just giving you a hard time, joking. You could just email out the script to everybody. We wouldn't have to listen to the podcast. Just read it.
That's true. But we would miss important information, like Nick is getting a new cat this week. So
yeah.
Jakester, are you a cat or a dog person?
I'm a dog person. I don't mind cats, but Julie's allergic to cats, so dogs it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're pet free for a while.
Yeah. You just retired your dog. So, but all right, Nick, what is this cat situation all about?
So we've been looking we lost one of our cats. We had 2 of them, just like whatever domestic short hair mongrel sort of cats. And we've been looking for a new one and kind of trying to find the right time. I've been looking to get a Maine Coon cat for like a while. They're supposed to be great with families. Albeit it was a bit harder to find a breeder in the area than I thought it would be. We finally found one that seemed pretty reputable. Just a heads up to people, if you do go down this rabbit hole with Maine Coons, as they're popular, I found not a lot, but at least 2 or 3 people that were like, oh, like, yeah, we breed. And it turns out they're like a third party. They're not like a first party breeder. They like know people, and you kind of get put through some hoops and stuff. So finally, actually was using ChatGPT. I was like, can you find me the breeders that are within 2 hours of this area that are accredited with, there's like 2 different associations for cat breeders that you can look for. This one in Southborough came up, and while she was having kittens, I guess 2 litters coming up that would be available probably November, December, she did let us know that she had a female who was like 3.5 that wasn't breeding anymore, that was open for adoption. She had been open for adoption for a month or so, and nobody wanted to pick her up, so I kind of looked at her from a picture, and her temperament sounded good. She gets along with like dogs in their house and stuff, so I wasn't super worried about her with kids or other things. And we thought she was pretty cute. I showed a picture to Ash, which kind of sealed the deal right there. Cheaper than a kitten as well, if you're adopting a Maine Coon. And we're going to get basically this 3.5-year-old's Maine Coon for Muse is her name, which I guess is all their cats are named after like cities or towns in Canada. And it looks like it's like a town or something in Newfoundland, I believe. So
are those Maine Coon cat, the big giant ones, right?
Yeah, the males get a lot bigger than the females. I think the males are typically like 15 to 25 pounds, which is quite large for a house cat. But the females probably top out around, I think she's around 14 pounds right now. And it's kind of odd with them compared to a lot of other cat breeds or even dogs, is they actually don't mature until they're like 3 to 5 years old. So she actually could get a little bit bigger. We'll see. She's probably like 95% of the way there, but she might get a little fluffier and more filled out. So we'll see how it goes. But I got the office set up. We'll probably keep her in here for a few days or a week and see how long. Try to sort of get the cats introduced the right way. The last time we brought a cat home, they were half sisters, but we just kind of plopped the cat there, which didn't go super well for either cat until we moved into our house and they were on level ground. They seemed to get along more, but it was kind of don't do that if you have a cat. I didn't know any better the first time, but
well, good luck, Nick. We're all excited for your cat, and we'll be looking forward to meeting her when she gets there.
Thanks. Another producer.
Peter, are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog person. I've got 2 dogs. So
you got 2 dogs.
Yeah. My wife would go either way. Could go with cats. I'm just not a big cat guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll get a dog one day. Maybe when the kids get a little bit older. But we'll see what happens. I know it'll end up being my chore to take care of, so that's more my apprehension, I think.
Yeah. I've moved on from wanting a dog, and now I'm going to buy a horse.
That works.
That's my next plan. So
it's a logical next step.
Right.
No, you're not.
Yeah. I am buying a horse. I will buy one eventually. But anyway, guys, so it's Tuesday night right now, and I am just recovering from my hangover from Sunday night. I did a rarity. You guys have never seen me drunk. So there was a drunk Mike walking around Boston on Sunday night at the Zac Brown concert. And we also won free tickets to go on a cruise in Florida, which I don't know. They gave away like free cruise tickets to this Margaritaville cruise. So we're going to see what that's all about, and I'll report back. Sounds dangerous, but we'll see.
Excellent. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
I don't know. Jake loves country music, so he's sad that he missed out.
That's not the case.
Okay. All right. All right, and then on our last bit of child or witty banter here, Nick put something in here that the child gates are back into effect. So he has stubbed his toe a bunch of times. So that is the perils of having little kids. And what if these kids end up becoming allergic to cats too? By the way, what do you do then?
I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to just get rid of the kids, right? Obviously, It's not the cats.
That's true.
Yeah, they've both been okay so far. Hopefully, neither of us really bothers her. So. Hopefully that continues. But yeah, have you guys like taken out child gates in your pet? Like one time I just completely kicked ours and like went right through it. Just like, metal hurts too when you kick it enough times. I
feel like we're all so far removed from that, Nick. We don't even know. I don't even know what you're talking about
anymore. Yeah, no. Yeah, I got them set up again. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, you know what we do want to talk about is we want to do a Dave Shits update. So our friend Dave is in... He's on the Appalachian Trail, and he just gave us a recent update. It sounds like he's having a little bit of a time out there, Nick, but what's the latest and greatest with Dave Shits on his Appalachian Trail journey?
Sure. So we did miss last week, our bad on that, but his last update, I was dealing with stomach issues, and short story is I had to get off trail quickly after the symptoms stayed, and I started showing newer, more concerning symptoms. I was able to get in touch with a shuttle before dawn and get to the Great Barrington Hospital to get checked out. Results came back positive for bacteria and unclear on parasites, but they ruled out Giardia. Took a couple different meds, took a couple zeros, and got back on trail via a side trail from my friend Sean Drum, New York, knew about and helped me get back south of where I get off. I think Dave was typing this in a little bit of a hurry, but we appreciate the update regardless. So I didn't lose miles and didn't have the brutal climb back up the trail I took down. Got into Massachusetts and up and over full mountains again. Then made my way into Vermont, where things were familiar, but not any easier, while still trying to get my strength back. Took a weekend off with Mrs. Shits, which was great. Then jumped back on trail with Liz Faye for a bunch of days, and of course, she brought the rain and a lot of it. Met up with Jake and Julie, who gained 500 apostle points for hiking with me. Then Peter and Jake, who each got 500 apostle points for hiking Killington. I stayed at a campground, then dropped back off on trail by Liz, and now taking my time with lower miles to avoid burnout and fatigue, and should be in New Hampshire by the time you guys hear this. Thank you, Liz, Jake, Peter, Julie, for joining me and giving me a boost I needed. So what are these apostle points that we're talking about here? Is Dave trying to put us in competition with each other?
Basically.
Yes, I think basically yes. But
It's working.
When we were on trail, he was very much like Dumbledore, right? Taking points and giving points at will for just making stuff up.
I like it.
Yeah, it's good to know. So for the listeners, if you're not familiar with the reference, so basically we have this like chat group. There's like 10 or 11 of us in there. Dave's in there. And then there's a lot of biblical names, Peter, Paul's, a bunch of those. So Dave had come up with a nickname for the group, which we are now called the Apostles, just because of that biblical name connection there. So he's now giving out Harry Potter themed apostle points for the people that come hike with him. So that's pretty cool. He's a funny guy.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to it. And I think by the time this drops, he'll be in New Hampshire, so he'll be making his way through Hanover. The timing, I'm pissed because I want to get out there and hike with him, but it's just not going to work out this week. So I got to figure something out. Looks like I'm going to be in Maine with you, Dave, so I'm sorry about that. But Jake, you guys got out there and connected with him, so talk about that a little bit. What was the plan there? How did that develop? And then what was the experience?
So, I sent him texted just him and said, hey, by the way, you got to be into Vermont. Where exactly are you? He told me where he was. I looked at the map. Well, shit, maybe this weekend me and Julie will take a ride up. We were just looking for something to do. We didn't want to go up for the whole weekend, maybe just a day trip. So he was a little south of Rutland when we met up with him. We only did about 4 or 5 miles with him, but we got to walk over this real cool gorge. I think it's called Clarendon Gorge. Then we turned around, went up trail, and said 4 or 5 miles, nonstop talking. He was super appreciative to have familiar faces, familiar voices, people he knew that he could talk to, as opposed to strangers on trail, right? You get to know these people a little bit, but you don't really know them. So yeah, we just spent a lot of time talking and walking. At the end of where we were turning around, there was a little farm stand. We had some ice cream. He charged up some of his gear. I carried a few beers with me, so we all had a beer, and then they moved on. Julie ended up saying, you know what? It's a nice day. It's a nice place. She ended up staying at the farm, reading her book, while I ran back the 4 miles to the car. And apparently, while I was going back to the car, Julie and Dave came up with a plan that, hey, if we really want to, there is a way that we could hook up and do Killington the next day. All right, so tell me about that plan. Meanwhile, Peter's wife, Deb, had texted Julie and I, hey, I heard you're hiking today, and we're kind of on your route home. Come by for dinner and a drink. So we did. I walked in. Hey, Peter, Dave says we should, if we want to hike Killington, this is how we could do it. No. I gotta paint. And the more we talked about it, next thing I know, I opened a beer and turned around and looked, and there's Peter filling his water bottles. So we came up with the plan and
priorities, Peter.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, we ended up meeting up with Dave Sunday morning. Peter and I. Julie decided not to do the Killington leg of it, and Peter and I kind of busted ass getting up there Sunday morning. He was a little bit ahead of schedule as far as the timing of what we thought he was going to be. So we basically ran to the summit of Killington. Met up. We actually beat him up there. Sat there for 10 or 15 minutes. Talked to a couple other hikers that came through. He showed up. He texted us from the bottom of the climb up, and he's like, "I'm coming up now." I'm like, we'll come down if you want. He's like, nope, the lodge is open. There's bear there. So yeah, they came up. We went into the lodge. He charged a little bit. We had a beer. Ordered a big basket of fries, delicious fries at the lodge at Killington. Yeah, and then we stepped off and hung with Dave for most of the day.
Very good. Were you able to carry his pack, or did he have to lift everything himself?
No, he carried his stuff. I carried the beers on Saturday. Liz was running a little low on fuel. I carried a can of fuel until we parted ways. Gave it to them when we parted ways on Saturday. But other than that, no, he was offering to carry the beers. I'm like, dude, you got a big, heavy pack. I'll carry those.
Yeah. Very good. So what do you think? You think he's
Awesome.
He's making good mileage?
He's making the mileage that he's gonna need to make it in time. You know what I mean? He knows his body. From what I understand, he could push a few more miles, but it's not going to last. A few more big mile days is going to end up costing him more. A few days down the road is, he'll make it. He'll make it.
Very good. Nick, we got to come up with a plan now that they're like the better friends, and we need to step it up.
Yeah, I might try to, we got a good amount going on too, but depending on how the weather works out, maybe even early next week, I'll see where he is and maybe try to take a day and go up early next week, but no guarantees, Dave. I'm going to see what the work schedule and everything else is at, but it'll be a little bit easier for me to get to him where he's going into now than probably anywhere else. So
yeah,
if I can do a day trip like that quick and arrange it.
Yeah, early next week, I would expect him to be south of Moose Lock somewhere in that stretch between Hanover and up to there. So nice, easy hiking in there.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
All right. Well, moving on to some New Hampshire stuff here. So we got somebody sent this to us. There's a candle company called Live Free or Die Candle Company. So shout out to them. Nick, do you know anything about this, or was this something stomp through in?
Stomped through this in. I did check out the link a little bit. It looked really neat.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. They have all different flavors of candles here. It looks like the flavors are like they have New Hampshire themed flavors. So there is the 1776. There's the Appeal to Heaven, Come and Take It, which has got like some sort of a gun in front of it, and then
Kangamanga's leaf peeping. That sounds good. Cinnamon,
yeah,
apple,
yeah.
and
So
cedar.
if you wanna, I feel like Peter, this would be good for your new place to do a New Hampshire theme on. So don't tread on me. Live Free or Die.
Does it say where to get them, or is it just online direct?
It's online, and I will put this in the show notes for people. And then there are they're at these different events. There's one. Actually, it looks like, it's coming up. Leaf Peepers Arts and Craft Fair in North Conway, which I've been to this. It's at Shula Park. And then Great Glen's Trail Craft Fair in Gorham on November 30th. So it looks like online and then at different events. So I'll put this in the show notes and check it out. It's pretty cool. Next up, Nick, I had talked about this in the intro. So Mount Washington is putting together what they're calling the Honor Summit United in Remembrance of 9/11. So this will be the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So this September, 2 pillars of light will rise from the highest peak in the Northeast as a powerful symbol of resilience, gratitude, and unity. Inspired by the dual beams that honor September 11th, the Honor Summit pays tribute to the lives lost, the first responders who answered the call, and the veterans whose courage continue to protect our community. So that's pretty cool. I would definitely like to go up there and check that out. It's going to be from September 9th to the 12th. The beams of light will illuminate the sky 4.5 miles above Mount Washington and will be visible from communities throughout New Hampshire and beyond on a clear night.
Yeah, it looks pretty neat. I know one time when I visited New York, I don't know what age I was. It was after September 11th, but I know that New York, I don't know if they still do it annually, but they do a sort of similar thing at the site where they actually have 2 beams of light that project up where the Twin Towers used to be. And this kind of looks similar. I imagine it'll be really striking coming from the summit of Mount Washington. To that whole area, you'll be able to see it probably from miles away.
Did you guys ever go to the Twin Towers before 9/11?
No, never got there.
As a real little kid, not that I remember. I was there when they were still doing a lot of cleanup. I got a friend that lives in New York City, actually my climbing partner, Nate. So when they were still doing a lot of cleanup, but they had the reflecting pool there, I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, I did go there. I ate at that Windows of the World. Matter of fact, Al Sharpton walked in when me and Mrs. Mike used to work for the Marriott, so we would go and we got we would stay there every once in a while. So yeah, I do remember it. But yeah, sad tragedy. But that's pretty cool that Mount Washington's doing that. So we'll put that link in the show notes, and people want to check it out. Put that on your calendar for September 9th to the 12th. You can hike up there. It'd be kind of cool to hike up there at night to just check that out. I don't know. how close you can get to the actual light. But I mean, can you just imagine going like across like from Boot Spur and heading up that, the view that on a clear night would be crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, next moving on here. So we got a couple search and rescue news here. So this guy got lost on Mount Willard, which is, that's a thing for sure. That's impressive. So on Sunday, July 19th at 8:11 p.m., Fish and Game responded to a call for an overdue hiker who was hiking Mount Willard in Crawford Notch. 27-year-old hiker from Nashua departed the trailhead at 2:30 p.m. and was expected back in a few hours after completing a 3.2-mile round-trip hike to the summit of Mount Willard and back. Now, Willard's pretty busy. This was a Sunday afternoon late in the day, so probably not as many people around. But when Watson didn't return by 8 p.m., his wife called 911 for assistance. 911 for assistance, and conservation officers responded. So at 9:35 p.m., 911 received a call from Watson and was able to get his location. He was on the Mount Avalon Trail, a short distance from Mount Willard Trail Junction. Watson was able to hike back down to the trailhead parking lot and reunite with his wife. When questioned by conservation officers, Watson could not recall where he had hiked all day. He realized he had hiked too far without reaching the summit of Mount Willard, so he turned around, had no cell phone signal, so he was unable to notify his wife or call 911. Finally found his cell phone service. He called 911 for assistance. So that's it. So I don't know, you guys, what do you think? You think he took a happy trip somewhere and maybe he had a few too many gummy beers and wandered off into the woods?
I honestly don't even know. Don't even know.
Yeah.
How can you be gone that far for that long and not know where you are?
Yeah, and those are busy sections of trail too, right? Yeah. I mean, you would have been passing at least 10 people throughout the afternoon, right? That you could have asked, "Hey, am I on the right trail?"
I think it's interesting too. He called back 911 because they make it's like we've all been there, we all know, but like the Mount Willard Junction is like steps into the woods after you cross the tracks. It's not like it's like a ways away. Like he was like probably like a 30-second walk up the trail or something, like maybe a 30-second jog up the trail from where he actually called 911. So I don't know, it's weird. I don't know. A lot of questions on this one for sure. Like, how did he go up to like Tom and Field and just I don't know what ended up happening or.
So I don't know if he took a happy trip or the other thing I always think about with this one is like, was he with somebody that he didn't want his wife to know he was with, and
is a concubine.
Who knows what happened there? So
yeah, definitely fishy.
Could be an honest mistake. It could be he just went up the Avalon Trail and no one was around and he just kind of wandered around. It is a little, I mean, there is that cold between Avalon and the start of the climb up to Field that maybe is a little confusing for people. I don't know, but I think it's impressive he got lost on Mount Willard.
Yes.
So this next one here is Peter, Whitehorse Ledge. Can you refresh my memory? Is that part of the White Mountain Guide? If you're doing redlining, you have to go in that Cathedral Ledge. It is all part of that.
It is. There's specific trails up in there that are part of it because there's a lot of, and I don't know if it's maybe some of it's climbers trails to come back down and so forth, but there's definitely like the path that goes around the pond that's down there, as well as some that goes up and connects to Red Ridge as well. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So officially, that area is known as Cathedral Ledge State Park. So that's a state park that those trail systems run through, but they are part of the White Mountain National Forest. So I go up there. Like you can drive, and that is also a trailhead, Peter, where I think you can drive up to Cathedral Ledge and then hit those trails from up on the road there. So you don't really have to climb up if you don't want to. But if you've never been there, so Cathedral Ledge is off of West Side Road in North Conway. You can drive. It's actually a great place to take little kids. It's a great place to take people that are not hikers if you want to get a view, because Cathedral Ledge is a fenced-in rock prominent outcropping that you can see views down into the North Conway Valley and out into the Green Hills. And then over to the right of Cathedral Ledge is a series of trails that take you to Whitehorse Ledge. And that's where this this person ran into trouble. 73-year-old hiker from Lincoln, New Hampshire, was about 2 miles from the trailhead at the time that she called. So she was having difficulty near the summit of White Horse Ledge around 4 p.m. on Monday, July 20th. So conservation officers in North Conway Fire and Rescue and Lakes Region Search and Rescue responded. I guess it looks like she had a hydration issue, so they rehydrated her and gave her some rest, and then she was able to hike out on her own with some assistance. So she got back to the trailhead around 7:30. So not a big deal there. They were able to hike her out, but definitely, like, it made me think about White Horse Ledge and Cathedral Ledge. It's just such a good area for like young kids or people that aren't hikers that want to experience a little bit of like what it's like to hike in the Whites to get the views, but not have to do the work.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
All right. And then next one here, we have 2 more search and rescue calls, and then we're going to get into a history segment here. So the next one is a hiker was injured on the Tuckeman Ravine Trail. So this is the upper section, and this one happened on Saturday, July 25th, around 1:20 p.m. So that was the day that we were on Katahdin. Oh, no, the day we were actually the day after Katahdin, but it was still pretty hot that day. So 911 call about an injured hiker on Tuckeman Ravine Trail near the Tuckeman Junction. So Tuckeman Junction is, I believe, where Lion's Head connects with the upper part of Tuckeman Ravine Trail. So this is on the summit cone where the big rocks are. So the 18-year-old hiker from Massachusetts had a significant leg injury and couldn't continue. So there was some hikers that had EMT certifications. They were able to assess the injury, so Good Samaritans, and they provided medical support while a rescue crew was assembled. Fish and Game Conservation officers and Androscoggin Valley Search and Rescue and Lakes Region Search and Rescue responded to the incident. It looks like the rescuers were transported to the Mount Washington Auto Road to the summit, hiked down that half a mile, and then they placed him in a litter and carried him back up to the summit, and then took him. I guess the 4 Good Samaritan hikers stayed to help as well. So by 5:50, they were able to get him to the summit and then take him into a cruiser and get him down to a hospital. So one thing I just want to, for listeners, if you aren't familiar with Tuckeman Ravine Trail, there's a lower section which starts at Hermit Lake. Well, it starts basically at Pinkham Notch, but there's the Hermit Lake section, and once you get on top of the head wall of Tuckerman, then you can continue up on Tuckerman Ravine, which takes you into, I don't know, Peter, how you would describe it. It's basically like big rock hopping and a lot of big boulder fields that you can go up Tuckerman Ravine to the summit. I actually prefer to head over to Southside Trail and then come up Crawford whenever I can. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on this or if you even go that way, but to me, I avoid that upper section of Tuckerman just because I can't stand the lights. I actually don't like it. It's too much rock hopping. The rocks are like too high for me. And I just find that like it's the same distance to go Southside over to Crawford, and it's just a nicer hike for me.
I don't. I've done the upper section of Tuckerman's a couple of times. The Crawford is a much easier hike, a little bit more enjoyable, a little less tough on the body.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's just, to me, it's just like a lot less rock hopping. So that's my preference.
Where does that junction come in? Like, before you start actually climbing up does it like wrap around sort of the southern side of the like, I guess that makes sense, the southern side.
Right, when you clear the head wall, then you connect with, there's a lower trail that takes you over to Lion's Head, and then that trail just continues on to Southside Trail as well. So it's basically goes along the head wall and then connects to Crawford Path, and then takes you basically like that traditional route that you take to go from Lakes of the Cloud up to the summit.
Yeah. I mean, it's all big rock and talus. Like you said, it's a lot more rock hopping that goes up that way. 6 of one, half dozen of the other for me. Just, whichever side's going to be a little bit shorter. But yeah, it's all of that stuff is pretty challenging. Just slow walking up it.
Right. Well, all's well that ends well, that one. So, not a bad location to get a rescue just because you're so close to the auto road. So it saves a lot of time, but it's still not good. Next up, there was a fatality on Welch Dickey, Nick. So what happened on this one?
Yeah, this was an unfortunate one. So Saturday, July 25th, around 12:15 p.m., Fish and Game was notified of a hiker having a medical emergency on the Welch and Dickey Trail in Waterville Valley. Basically, 62-year-old male that wasn't feeling well and unable to walk. And considering all that info, a rescue call was made. Volunteers from Pemi Valley Search and Rescue and Fish and Game officers responded to the trailhead. At 1 p.m., the first group of volunteers started up the trailhead. At 1:44 p.m., another 911 call was received. At this point, the hiker had collapsed and was no longer responsive. So CPR was started by passing hikers and continued till the volunteers were able to get there. And due to the seriousness of the situation, distance from the trailhead, the New Hampshire Army National Guard helicopter was called in. The National Guard got a flight crew together while Pemi Valley Search and Rescue and Good Samaritans performed life-saving measures. The helicopter was able to hoist the hiker from the mountain. Unfortunately, the hiker did not survive. And they're withholding the name and everything about the hiker until the family members are notified. Volunteers got back down at 5:36 p.m. So just a really unfortunate one here. Our thoughts with the family and with all the search and rescue volunteers and Fish and Game officers that were involved in this one, performing life-saving measures, trying to keep the guy alive. But yeah, just a sort of sad story, not kind of an unexpected spot for that to happen. But
yeah,
things happen.
It's too bad. It's too bad. I think that, I don't know, sometimes these get back to the family and whatnot. So condolences to the family.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is we've had the New Hampshire Army National Guard team on here before, and they've talked about like that area of Welch Dickey is where they have a lot of their training. So I think they do landing touchdowns somewhere back there. So for them to get over there is just like, it's like second nature. So yeah. I'm sure that they got there as soon as they could. Unfortunately, it didn't work out from a timing perspective, but for the family, there's never a good spot to have this happen, but like Welch Dickey is where they train and they can get there really fast. So I'm sure that they did do their best to try to save him. So, very sad. But next one on here, Nick, is an AT section hiker. I'm starting to call this section of Kinsman Ridge like the Bermuda Triangle for through hikers. It seems like we've got like a lot of injuries in this particular area. But this section hiker had a head injury at Eliza Brook Shelter. Have you ever been, Nick? Have you been to Eliza Brook? I've never been in that area.
Whereabouts is that? I'd actually have to. Is that on the
Kinsman Ridge past?
Yeah,
it's near Mount Wolf, I think.
Okay, yeah, I haven't been by that before. But it does seem like we've had a lot of stuff going on just over the past 6 or 7 months in this area. But this was back on Sunday, July 26, 2:15 p.m. Fish and Game was notified of a hiker had fallen and suffered a serious head injury. The hiker was hiking the AT when the incident occurred and was on day 5 of hiking across New Hampshire. The information provided was that the hiker was less than a mile from the Eliza Brook Shelter and attempting to make it there. So rescuers drove ATVs for about 6 miles and then hiked over a mile to the Eliza Brook Shelter, reaching the injured hiker at 4:18 p.m. The hiker was identified as a 69-year-old from Ohio, so he's come a long ways. The hiker and his brother were section hiking the AT when the incident occurred. They mentioned, too, that the pair was very well prepared and had all the required equipment and gear needed. And due to the seriousness of the injury, the hiker was assisted to the waiting ATV and then transported back to the trailhead, arriving around 5:48 p.m. And then pretty much treated him for further injuries there. Just mentioning, too, that the hikers were super well prepared. Fish and Game always tends to call this out. So these guys sounds like had all their stuff. They were experienced hikers, and this was kind of a case of probably just slip and fall. And something happened, and thankfully, that trail, maybe, Peter, you have a better idea, too, but to be able to drive an ATV in there for 6 miles to get to him, I don't know how rugged that trail is, but it must be somewhat wide and flat, or at least
my guess is they came up Real Brook.
Okay.
Trail.
Yeah, that's
right, because that is kind of very much moderate going up. I could see somebody getting an ATV up there. Yeah. Once you hit the AT though in there, it narrows in a bit.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at some of the topo while we were talking about that, and that I would imagine it would be a heck of a ride down on an ATV going down that thing. But at least they were able to get it in there and kind of get him down speedily. So,
you have to look. I think this is at least the 4th AT through hiker that has gotten in trouble between Beaverbrook and the Kinsman area in the last 2 years. So there's been a couple of them for sure. And there was a long period where you didn't see a single AT through hiker having any rescues, but for the last 2-3 years, they've popped up more and more.
There's just been a lot too, like Basin Cascades, and then we had that one fatality back in the spring around there. But there's been a lot of activity around sort of the Kinsman Ridge area.
Yep. Very good. Well, that's we've got a few more search and rescues at the end if we have time, but that we wanted to knock those out. It's been busy. You guys want to do a history segment or a little like history mystery segment?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Been too long.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
Nick, I'm gonna assign you a set of homework. You have to put some like mystery music, like some Scooby-Doo type music behind this segment.
All right,
as
I'll
I'm
see
talking. So you have
something like spooky and mysterious.
Yes, yeah. So and
All
you
right,
may
I'll see
have
what I can do.
some outdoor, like maybe some wind and some snowy conditions.
All right, you're pushing it now. It's going to cost us money.
We'll see. Anyway, cue the winter boots and the door opening and whatever. So anyway, I wanted to do this segment just because I've mentioned this maybe once or twice, and there's some stuff on the social media. We've put together some videos of I've been helping my brother and sister-in-law clear their property. They bought like a horse farm that was a little bit of a kind of a hoarder situation. So they've been getting the horse stalls ready and doing a lot of work over there. But come to find out that this particular piece of property had a mystery from 1977 that was somewhat well known, and it's called it's known by a couple of different things: the Wakefield Ice Mystery, the mystery at McCarthy's Pond, the Wakefield UFO incident. So there's a whole bunch of things here, but just to tee this off, so last month my brother and sister-in-law bought this old horse farm in Wakefield, New Hampshire. Since then, they've been working to restore the property to its former glory. So and I've been helping them with this. There's a lot of clearing, a lot of overgrowth, a lot of building repair, a lot of horse stalls we got to repair. And slowly I've been learning the different parts of the farm, and they've been learning more and more of the property. Haven't been able to explore all the property. Long term, the plan is to basically build a set of horse trails or mountain bike trails and hiking trails around the property, but we haven't. I scouted a little bit out there this week, but that's the long-term plan, guys, and it'll be a little party spot for us if we can do some camping out there and whatnot. But the property's large. It's like 40 acres. It's got a house and an upper barn that was built in 1810. It's got a large outdoor or indoor riding arena and a row of stables that was built in the 1990s. And then directly between the house and the large indoor riding facility sits a small pond. You'd look at it and go like, oh, this is a cool little pond to maybe go ice skating in the winter. Very nondescript, right by the driveway between the house and the large set of stalls. So this location is important because a lot of versions of this story will present this pond as being like out in the middle of like the wilderness, and you got to snowshoe out to it. And so it's kind of a game of telephone with the way the story has played out over the years. But this pond is not hidden deep in the woods. It's not some secret place concealed by like the forest where you can only reach it by a compass or snowshoes. There's a couple of like different podcasts and people that have presented it as like this pond that's hard to get to, but it's not. It's just like it's a catch pond right next to the driveway. So it's right in the middle of the property, sits between the home and the horse buildings in a place that the family would have seen while looking out their house and walking back and forth to take care of the horses. So it was just part of their daily landscape. So this story starts on January 10th, 1977. So I would have been 4 years old at this point.
You were as old as my daughter.
I was so cute back then, Nick. You would believe it. So
I'm sure I couldn't believe it.
Right. So anyway, January 10th, 1977, something about that familiar landscape suddenly looked wrong, Nick. This is where you would put the cool music in. Okay.
Okay. So what looked wrong?
Well, so this is, I'll get to it. But
okay,
right now, just to give a little bit of background, at the time, the property was known as Rocky Ridge Farm. It was owned by the McCarthy family. They had reportedly used this Wakefield property as a summer house beginning in 1967 when they were still living and working in the Boston area. So around 6 years before the pond incident, around 1971, the family moved there full-time to raise horses. So the owner's name was William McCarthy. So later stories often called William McCarthy Farmer Bill, but that gives the tale sort of like a rustic charm, but he was not just some farmer guy. He was really a building contractor that worked on like skyscrapers in Boston. So in online discussions about this story, and I'll get to the details of the story in a minute, his daughter, Kathy, had said that her father had worked in construction in Boston and New Hampshire and was never really happy when reporters just reduced him down to Farmer Bill. But that's the deal. They lived in this horse farm. They had been living there for about 6 years by 1977. Kathy had said the deal with the horses was that was her department. She was a horse girl, and the family had moved up there. There was like a smaller set of stable. Right now, there's a big indoor riding arena training facility with 21 horse stalls. The original stalls that we were actually working on this weekend, there's like 6 of them, and I think that was the original farm. And then they had an outdoor sand-based training section for the horses, so not as big as it is today, but probably they have the same amount of horses. They have 5 horses right now, and probably around what the McCarthys had as well. But so this Rocky Ridge farm, it wasn't some isolated frontier homestead. It was like a working family property occupied by the people who knew, who just had a daily routine. So going back to Monday, January 10th, 1977, there was a snowstorm going underway. They describe it as a blizzard, but it was a snowstorm. Snow laid heavily across the farm, and the temperature was around 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is a wide open piece of property. So I can definitely see back then that the snow would cover up the fields, and the wind would probably be whipping because there's really not a lot of protection in that area there. So a blizzard was underway. This pond was thick with ice. The New York Times article that described the incident described it as roughly being 15 inches thick, and then some other accounts over the different news stories have said 14 to 18 inches. So the details of this thing already begin to shift as the story begins. But essentially what happened is William McCarthy looks out around noontime on Monday, January 10th towards the pond, and he sees what appears to be a hole in the ice. So that's odd, right? So he goes down there to investigate. Through the opening, what McCarthy claims is that he cautiously looked down into the hole and saw a black square object. And this black object would become like the famous detail of the story. So over the years, the square object would become a box, the box would become a cube, the cube would sometimes become a piece of like alien technology or a UFO. So people really ran with this thing, but the story ended up getting crazy. But ultimately, no one ever really found out exactly what this supposed object was. McCarthy probed the area with a horse and rakes, and he later said that what appeared to be a black object was actually a square depression or a hole in the hard-packed bottom of the pond, about 1 foot square and perhaps 3 feet. Now, this pond, I've been checked out this pond. This pond's probably no deeper than 3 to 4 feet in the middle, as best I can tell. It's a typical pond. You'll see like a muddy bottom. It's got grass growing in it. So I have to imagine by January, that thing's probably almost already empty of water. So there's probably not much water in there, maybe a little bit of muck, but it's got to be frozen solid for the most part. So anyway, McCarthy's digging around. He's like trying to figure out why is this big 3 foot hole in the ice when it's 15 inches thick and it's the middle of a 5-degree blizzard here. So he also reported that the ice itself was changing. He said that the ice began melting into 2 rounded openings, and snow on and around the pond turned to slush. So this was going on at a blizzard, roughly 5 degrees above zero. So McCarthy didn't know what to do. So he ended up calling the local police, just being like, this is a strange situation. And then the phone call that he made to the police ended up transforming this afternoon, looking at this hole in the family pond, into a full-scale New Hampshire event that made news stories for like 3 or 4 days across the region, and actually made national news in New York Times, and then ended up being part of like probably 10 different books that included this incident in their stories in the 80s. So local officers arrived. They broke out Geiger counters. So the contemporary reporting says that it's not entirely clear what happened with these Geiger counters, so there's a lot of uncertainty on there. Later accounts supply specific radiation readings. One account said 3 Roentgens, I think is how you pronounce that. So this is a level of radiation that would be the equivalent of exposure of 1,500 chest x-rays received at once. So it's a concerning level, but far below a dose expected to cause radiation sickness or death. One later version says that 3 different instruments gave 3 different results, 1 high, 1 low, and 1 effectively 0. So the readings have never been established consistently in the surviving material that I could find, but at the time, the possibility of radiation was apparently taken seriously enough to escalate the response. So now they got a radiation reading. Civil defense personnel arrive at night, supposedly like 2 in the morning. And this is where the story gets, conspiracy theories. They say basically like the men in black showed up at 2 in the morning and took whatever was in that pond out of there, but no one really knows. McCarthy had a German Shepherd, which was alerted everybody to the activity that was going on at night. And then by that point, local police, civil defense workers, highway employees, state police crime lab personnel, representatives of the Attorney General's office, and a National Guard colonel ended up showing up at the McCarthy's farm. McCarthy was reportedly advised not to let the horses drink from the pond, and then officials proceeded to cut through the ice using a post hole digger. They collected mud from the bottom, placed it in plastic bags, and carried it away for testing. At that time, it was a local story, and they were trying to make it so that the story didn't leak. Unfortunately, it got around town what was going on, and reporters and curiosity seekers arrived at the property. There was cars lined along Ballard Ridge Road beside the snowbanks, and a helicopter carrying a television crew landed in the snowy field. A second helicopter couldn't even find enough room. So this thing got out of control, guys. It's got a little crazy in January in New Hampshire, but they're probably all bored, and this is the most exciting thing that happened in Wakefield, New Hampshire, in God knows how long.
Yeah, for sure. Especially back then, I have to imagine they were going to sensationalize it as much as possible.
Right. So, so it was a big escalation, and then William McCarthy's wife, Dorothy, later said that someone from the Attorney General's office told her, "We're trying not to let this leak out." Unfortunately, at a nearby general store, one man reportedly declared it was the biggest thing that had ever happened in Wakefield, New Hampshire. So back at the farm, sightseers start making their way over there. They're staring at the ice and offering their opinions. One visitor wondered whether all the attention would cause the property value to become outrageous. So everyone's thinking they're going to be millionaires now because of the novelty of this thing. So couple days of chaos with the news reports and everything. By January 13th, so this is 3 days later, New Hampshire Governor Meldrum Thompson Jr. was attempting to bring the excitement to an end. The governor announced that there was no object at the bottom of the pond. He said that the first instruments had not been adequate and that more sophisticated equipment produced a negative result for radiation. He described the alarm as false and said that he was glad that there was nothing to fear. Officially, that should have closed the matter. William McCarthy was not convinced. There's a bunch of follow-ons in this I'm going to get into. So he told reporters when spring came, he intended to dig up the area and find out for himself. His wife reached a different conclusion. She said that if another hole appeared, she was going to tell anybody. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And that may be the most reasonable statement made during the entire investigation. But that was not the end of the story when the officials left. It began to grow in retelling. So the uncertainties hardened into certainties. The pond became this like hidden and remote pond when in reality it was just this pond that was right off the driveway. The black appearance became this solid black mysterious cube. Ambiguous instrument readings became dangerously high radiation. Officials collecting mud became government agents secretly removing an object. 2 vehicles arriving after midnight became proof that someone had reached the pond before investigators returned. Could it be men in black? So some versions even say that the state drained the pond and discovered that the object had vanished. That sequence is featured prominently in modern retellings, but it's not what the New York Times article at the time had said. So original newspaper stories say officials cut through the ice and removed mud for testing. It does not report a confirmed black cube being recovered, a secret federal removal, or a drained pond revealing an empty impact site. Years later, a woman identifying herself as Kathy McCarthy, William's daughter, offered a family perspective. She said that she had gone down to the pond with her father through deep snow. She remembered an open patch of water roughly 3 feet across despite single-digit temperatures and winds. She said she and her father poked at the apparent object, decided that continuing was not wise, and left it alone. She disputes accounts naming her brother Thomas as the original discoverer. I don't know if her and Thomas are beefing. According to her recollection, Thomas did not live at the farm and came only after the family told him what happened. Kathy described the pond as shallow with a clay-like bottom rather than deep mud. She recalled the entire surface becoming slushy and a second dark area or opening appeared later. So anyways, it's valuable information there. But anyway, this story is not simply about what happened to the ice. It's about what happens when events occur and reporters, officials, farm family members, UFO researchers, and decades of retelling all tell the story. So if you dig around on this story, it's you can look at it, McCarthy's Pond. There's all kinds of crazy tellings about UFOs and all kinds of weird stuff. But it could be nothing. It could be that like 2 layers of ice were on the pond, one of them dropped into the other one. That sometimes does happen. It could be, there was another explanation where they said potentially like a spring or a groundwater movement with gas in it might have caused the melting. And then obviously like a meteor or some sort of space object might have also caused this. And it could be that like it was destroyed when it hit the pond for some reason. It could be natural. Who knows? Maybe teenage kids decided to light a fire or something and it wasn't, people weren't aware. Who knows? It could be anything, but aircraft debris, it could be a satellite, anything like that, but no one ever really discovered it. But the appealing part of this was people were getting into like government cover-up theories. They were talking about UFOs and all kinds of other explanations, but it is kind of a weird story. Like, how does a 3-foot wide hole appear in the middle of like a 15-inch set of ice in a pond when it's 5 degrees out?
I think the
Peter, you got any theories?
No theories. I guess I'd start with the question of what caused them to go out and look at it to begin with. Right? Did they hear something? Right?
Yeah, it was noontime. They had to. So the way that the house is set up is that they got to keep an eye on the horses. So by noontime, I would imagine that like typically the way the horses work is you get out there in the morning. You got to feed that. The better question, Peter, would be like they get up in the morning to feed the horses. How do they not see it at 6 a.m. when they go out to feed the horses? Later on in the day, they got to go back and water the horses again and make sure that they've got enough hay and everything. So over the course of the day, going back and forth between the house and the horse stalls, they would have seen the pond.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was called Rocky Ridge Farm back then, but it's quiet now. It's gone through a bunch of different names. We're now calling it the Avalon Equestrian, and they're working it as a family with my niece, their daughter. So no reporters around anymore, no helicopters, no lines of cars, but the same layout is there. The house and upper barn sits unchanged from when it was built in 1810. The indoor riding arena was built in the 1990s, which expanded the old horse stables, with the pond sitting in between them. So it's not in a haunted forest. It's not miles from the nearest human footprint. It's right in the center of that area. No one knows whether this was an unusual failure of ice. Perhaps warm water rose from below via a spring. We don't know whether the instruments that supposedly read the radiation were right or wrong. We don't know. Maybe some kids lit a fire at night and did it as a prank. It's tough to know, but 50 years later, this story still continues and is well known in Wakefield. So it was a chaotic investigation. A lot of evidence is missing. Every time this story is retold, this pond gets a little bit more remote. The radiation gets a little stronger, and the black square becomes more and more definite that existed. But we really don't know what happened. Maybe it was a UFO. I like to think that it was maybe a meteor that hit. There is a weird couple of footnotes on this thing. There's a guy by the name of William Houston that was on Facebook that claimed that he had found this unusual looking, and I'll link this in the show notes. He found this unusual looking rock, which does not look like a natural rock. And he had posted like 2-3 years ago and said that he had, I guess he had been the son of when it was Rocky Ridge Farm. the McCarthy sold it a couple years later. This guy's parents owned the horse farm, and they called it Misty Meadows. When he was on the horse farm as a kid, he found this rock, and he was like, this is such a weird rock, and he kept it all the way for the rest of his life. And in 2022, he posted it and was like, I'm going to get this checked to see if it might be a meteor. So he said he found it in the outdoor riding arena, which is literally like right next to the pond. He said he found it wedged in the sand and pulled it out, and I'll send you guys the pictures of it. The link is in the show notes if you want to check it out. But it is interesting. So I may reach out to this guy to ask him if he ever got it tested for it being a meteor. So that might be the explanation.
Yeah, I like the meteor idea. So Mike, was this like disclosed? Like, did your brother and stuff find out about this when they bought it, or did you just stumble upon this from looking through New Hampshire kind of oddities, or how did you actually realize this was the pond?
I'll have to double check with my brother to see. I think I'll have to ask him. I think that the weird thing about this whole property is that it's had a bunch of different owners, and when they bought the property, they heard from a lot of the former owners, because I think that the situation with the previous owner was a little rough. I think that they were in over their heads as far as maintaining the property. So I think that some of the previous owners were happy that they had bought the property and hopeful that they were going to restore it back to like a better condition than it had been in over the recent. I mean, I can tell you that like this whole thing was a wreck buying this thing, and the amount of work that they've done. I mean, I just go over there for a few hours on the weekends. I've spent a couple of days over there, but the amount of work is insane that they've done already, clearing the fields, getting the stalls ready to go. So I think what ended up happening is they heard from McCarthy's daughter. I'll have to double check and see, and maybe I'll get her on for a segment, but I think that's what happened is they heard from McCarthy's daughter, who we just referenced, and then found out about it from, but I don't think they knew until they bought the property. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I imagine it must be kind of one of the more notable kind of newsworthy things for Wakefield still. Yeah. So, cool.
1977, it kind of sounds like a precursor to today's entire news media circus.
Right. Yeah. Right. It was like, seriously, you could definitely see this being like a Stranger Things episode, right? Yeah. Something fell into the pond, but it escaped before anybody really noticed it, and it's in the woods somewhere, but everybody's searching around the property. So it'd be like an X-Files thing. And then there is a little bit of extra research that I need to do. I found that there was a follow-up article from October 12th, 1977 that revisits the incident and has some interviews with William. I wasn't able to I found the reference to the article, but I have to go onto the New Hampshire Times archive site to find the October 12th, 1977 edition. I think I have to pay a little bit of money on that one. So I'm going to try to get that, and then I'll try to reach out to McCarthy's daughter, and then maybe I'll try to reach out to that meteorite guy to see what's going on. But interesting story.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, when you send me, it's funny if you look, there's like so many like Reddit and forum posts. There's a lot of stuff online about this. A lot of people have dived down the same rabbit hole before. So it's kind of interesting that your brothers. So are we going to go in the summer and try to dig up this pond? It's going to be my next question.
Yeah, we are. Well, I was almost thinking I might do a video and just go diving into that pond and kicking around with my feet to see if I can find like some radiation down there.
We never see you again.
Right.
It'd be bad.
We'll have to see. I mean, it's got a culvert. You could, in theory, just like run. Literally, you could probably pump that pond out in about probably less than an hour. I could put a pump in there and just get that whole thing cleared out and see what's on the bottom. But I don't know. We got other work to do. We got the horses to worry about with when I'm over there. So, but maybe next year.
Excellent.
So. Anyway, but that's the story of the Wakefield UFO mystery, the Wakefield Ice Hole mystery, McCarthy's Pond. So we'll put some links in the show notes of different sources that you can check and read out. But I love those stories, the local sort of weird oddities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Very good. What is next, Nick?
So next, we have, this was another sort of unfortunate event. We had a Netflix star and mountaineer, Nirmal Purja, dies in tragic avalanche. So I got this one sent by a couple of friends and stuff who pay attention to this sort of community. But this climber, getting an ad block here, Nirmal Purja, ended up, his ascents, I haven't actually seen this. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but in the Netflix film 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible, So he summited all the 14, I guess, 8,000 meter peaks in the world. Kind of became pretty famous through this documentary. And it sounded like pretty recently he had been leading a pack of 10 climbers trekking up to the 26,400 foot Broad Peak in Pakistan when a snow slide struck midday this past Thursday. And basically they all went missing. Sounds like all of them sort of perished in the avalanche. So really unfortunate situation. The climber, Purja, was only 43 years old. Kind of really made a name for himself. And sounds like there was just kind of potentially a really large snowpack up there, and they got caught in an avalanche, and kind of how it ended. So kind of interesting. It seems like for someone that experienced, it seems like maybe not the best conditions. I've read a few different articles people had sent to me on this too. So I know maybe summit fever going on, or maybe they thought they could handle it, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, your window for mistakes is pretty narrow when you're up there above 8,000 meters, or even just in those areas. So it's anywhere you're dealing with avalanche territory and in those high summits is just scary.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it sounds like so. Purja had actually broken the record for the fastest ascents of these the 14 8,000 meter peaks in the world. That was back in 2019. Climbing just over 26,300 feet in 6 months. So he did it over 6 months' time, which is pretty damn impressive. And imagine a lot of coordination and money involved in that too. So it sounds like they searched for him. They made every possible effort to try to find the people that were lost, but ultimately were unable to find them at this time.
Very good. And what's next, Nick?
Then I guess we've been too many weeks since we've talked about a grizzly. So this was, I think Stomp had found this one. So Catholic deacon fell 100 feet while being mauled to death by a surprised grizzly bear. So that sounds pretty horrible.
Yeah, this is a nightmare.
Yeah, so there's a Catholic deacon that was mauled to death by a grizzly bear and fell almost 100 feet as the animal continued to attack him. So I guess in free fall, he was still getting attacked by this grizzly bear. Anthony Polio, 33, was hiking Montana's Glacier National Park on May 3rd when he surprised an adult male grizzly bear on Mount Brown Lookout Trail. Do not want to surprise any grizzly bears. So that darkness and deadfall on the trail would have prevented the bear and Mr. Polio from seeing each other until they were very close. And the protective grizzly bear launched an intense attack. It sounds like Polio fully discharged his bear spray, but plunged 93 feet downslope. And it's funny too, this is just sort of in the station of the article, but someone mentioned that probably while the bear continued to attack. So to give you the visual there, it's kind of extrapolated a bit.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this one is it sounds like he stumbled into the beer. He was able to. This guy, by the way, you think a Catholic deacon, like the deacons I know are they're a little soft neck. I am yet to meet a Catholic deacon that and I've seen a lot of them that are outdoor. This guy's got like Bowie knives and guns and stuff. He's a hunter. He's a real outdoorsy manly man. So he let loose with the bear spray, and then the bear stopped attacking him. He was able to sort of climb up a little bit, and then unfortunately the bear came back for round 2, and that was the end.
Yeah, this always makes me think too. I wonder how effective that bear spray is, in the sense of like, are you just going to piss the bear off more, and it's still going to try to kill you? Because it seems like that's kind of what happened here. Like, I don't know if you could get it in the eyes or in the mouth. Like, there must be somewhere you can hit a bear with that'll actually stop. But didn't seem like it helps a lot here.
I did a solo nighttime hike this weekend, Nick, and I was a little bit nervous about black bears, but I had my silky saw, and I was going to take that out and use it like a sword if I needed to.
Oh, that seems like a surefire defense system for sure. That's better than singing. That was like, was it Liz Faye we had on? That was like singing was just sort of sort of the defense mechanism. Sorry, Liz, out you and Izzy, but like, yeah, I guess that probably put more faith in that at least.
Yes, yeah. Imagine taking a black bear down with a silky saw. You'd be like a legend.
You probably would be.
Yeah,
probably
you know why? Because it would never happen. But you know,
yeah.
You gotta know this is a terrible story.
Happen.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So this is the first fatal attack in Glacier National Park in 30 years, which is surprising to me. So, but now he's he lived a pretty good life. 33 years old. He was a Florida guy, but he did all kinds of hiking all over these national parks here. So Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Grand Teton, Starved Rock, Mount Rushmore. So a lot of experience in the outdoors, and unfortunately, he did everything right as far as having the bear spray, but it's still, you stumble on a grizzly and it's game over.
Yeah, I don't think your odds are really great. I am kind of surprised. I mean, it's encouraging to hear that it's been that long since a fatality, because Glacier to me, above a lot of the national parks, is like synonymous with grizzlies, and people talking about grizzlies out of everywhere else I seem to hear about. Maybe it's just because it's popularity. A lot of people go there, but I always think of grizzlies.
Yep. All right, Nick, we're running out of time here, so I think that we've got to skip the gear review, and I think we've got to skip the Music Minute, well, here, Nick, you can do Music Minute or you can do notable hikes. Which one do you want to do?
We'll skip the Music Minute and we'll throw to notables. How does that sound?
Okay. That's good. I will say that the Music Minute on point this week, so I approve.
Thank you. You guys, I think hanging out with you guys for a weekend like jogged my 80s and 90s music kind of thing again. So.
All right, so now we're moving on to, all right, if you want to get stickers for SLASR, then you can go to Mountain Wanderer, you can go to Spinner's Pizza Parlor in Andover. If you want to get SLASR swag, you can get that at the Bonfire Shop. We'll link that in the show notes. If you want to get patches, you can still message us over Instagram. They're $2.50, and Nick will somehow figure out how to get your address and Venmo and all that stuff. So just send us a message if you want those. And then if you want to donate to us to help us pay for bear spray and Geiger detectors, whatever we need.
Dredging ponds.
Yeah, pond dredging services. You can do that through SLASR's Buy Me a Coffee site. So you can go ahead and buy us coffee, and that money will go to web hosting, distribution, live events, or any other nonsense that we decide. And then you can also become a monthly supporter. So if you click a box and say, take money out of my banking account every month, you can do that, and then it's impossible to cancel it. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops. So we love that. That's our favorite thing. And then moving on to bear talk, not the black bear talk, but the kind you drink. This is the part of the show where we talk about what beer we're drinking. So Peter, are you drinking anything tonight?
I am drinking water tonight.
All right, you're drinking water. Night. All right, I see Jake just flashed a beer. He is never going to be somebody that doesn't have a drink. So what is that?
Jake's got Heady Topper. You got the. Oh, you're muted, Jake.
You're muted. You're on mute, Jake.
You're on mute, Jake. Oh,
sorry,
Jake. Look, we're a professional podcast here.
Sorry.
You gotta hit your mute button when you're talking.
I was in Vermont this last weekend, so I am drinking Heady Topper, but I'm going back and forth between the Heady Topper and the water.
Excellent.
Good choice. And then, young Nick, what are you drinking?
I just have athletic, so not very exciting. Yeah. School night.
I do like that. Nick, the listeners all want to know whether or not you purchased a bike, and if you've continued on with your bike riding journey, or if you've just continued on to ignore your bike riding. You have responsibility for young children now. They should be learning how to ride a bike. They should be out riding around, and the listeners want to know.
The conversations about purchasing bikes have kicked off. I'll keep everybody abreast of the situation as it unfolds, but nothing has been happening as of late. So, yeah, that's where we're at. But I'll be sure to let everybody know.
I feel like you should be prioritizing bike purchases over Maine Coon cat purchases, but that's just my opinion.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Mike. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to let this go. So I'm not going to stop bothering you until those children can ride bikes with no training wheels.
It could be a long ongoing segment.
Mrs. Nick, I have your back.
I knew we should have gone left back there.
Stomp, don't worry. I know it's this way. I've got a feeling in my gut.
Are you sure you're not about to have a bowel emergency?
Totally. We got this.
But I just blew out my hip. Fell down that gully with my 40-year-old microspikes.
Suck it up, Stomp. It's 4 p.m. We're at 3,500 feet. We got 9 miles back to the parking lot. Your leg may be broken. We got no cell connection, and we can't feel our fingers. But we're finishing all of my list tonight. By the way, I need some water. I'm empty.
I would if I could see what I'm doing, but my headlamp batteries are dead.
You gotta be kidding me. What a chump. This is the last time I hike with you.
Whatever, mister. Do you know me? I have a podcast.
Whatever.
Let's find out what Mike and Stomp have been hiking.
All right, next up is the part of the show where we talk about recent hikes. So Peter and Jake already talked about their recent adventure on the Appalachian Trail in Killington. Do we need to get into more detail on that, or did you guys give us all the details?
I think you got most of the detail on that.
That's about
Over
it.
Killington up Pico.
Okay.
Down.
I remember the one thing I remember about Pico is there's a lot of signs about porcupines on Pico. Did you guys see any signs warning about porcupines?
Didn't see any signs. Well, we were kind of running too, so
Not a lot, but I remember seeing a few. Okay.
Didn't see any porcupines either. It was kind of a weird mix of forest roads and trails to get up to the summit of Pico. But
okay, interesting.
All right, Nick, and then you had a very exciting weekend at Katahdin, and then now you seem to have reverted to unexciting weekends of hiking now that you are home in southern Mass. So where did you get out to?
Yeah, like you said, one Friday you're hiking Katahdin and Hamlin Peak, and the next you're doing 250-foot ascents up a 450-foot hill in Cumberland, Rhode Island. So yeah, I got out a little bit on Friday morning, Saturday, just trying to keep the legs fresh with some races with the Jigger Johnson sneaking up on us in a couple weeks with my my cousin. So yeah, and I've got he kind of was propositioned to me. I was planning on joining at the Hancock Heron Pin and going out there, but now he was kind of asking if I would want to join at Sawyer River. And maybe Peter, you can give us some insight. I don't know if any of you guys have been on that, but the Sawyer River Trail through Carrigan Notch Trail, kind of that section where you go back to Hancock Hairpin, is apparently notoriously one of the nastiest sections of that whole trail, as far as it's just super wet and I guess muddy a lot. And he's kind of worried about it personally. And I'm I don't know if I want to. I mean, I feel like I should suffer with him, but yeah, I don't know if you've been through there and have any
I would agree it's wet and muddy, but I don't remember anything terribly challenging about it.
Yeah.
Again, it was just sort of marshy in a bunch of spots. It's not steep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that's the case of some of the folks that have run ultra races and just haven't hiked in the whites as much, kind of hitting that, and then they get really bummed out because they can't make as good time as they think they can. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I might try to get out to Blue Hills or something this weekend. We'll see what's up. But you had a much more exciting hike to talk about, Mike. So what did you do this past weekend?
Yeah, before we get into that, I'd just like to say I enjoy having Peter on the show because he's completed his red line, and it's basically we don't even have to reference a White Mountain Guide ever again because we just ask Peter. Encyclopedia. So, but I got out to the Baldfaces. I had done some trail maintenance in May. I had done, I think, some sections between Bicknell. I did Eagle Crag to Bicknell Ridge, and then I did some other sections beyond Bicknell Ridge, and then I had to just scout the whole circle. So I decided that we had to get back into Boston on Sunday, so it was Saturday. So I got up at 2 a.m. on Saturday, went and grabbed some coffee at the Irving in Freiburg, and then went over to Evans Notch, and I was on trail by 3 o'clock in the morning and just headlamped it solo. There was a couple of cars in the parking lot, so I thought that I would see some people camping up at the shelter, but I didn't see anybody when I got up there. But yeah, I hadn't done a solo night hike in a while, and it was fun. It was peaceful. I just put in an audiobook and moved along, and that section of trail from the parking lot to Emerald Pool is pretty much flat, so it gives you a mile, maybe a little over a mile of just easing into it. And then once you get to the cutoff to get up to Salt Baldface, the section past Emerald Pool up to the shelter that's a big climb. I think that's probably, 1,400 feet of climbing over the course of about a mile and a half or so. So got up to the shelter. There's no water around there at all. So if anybody's going to the Baldfaces, basically you got, I think it's Chandler Brook. There is some water sources higher up on the Bicknell Ridge side when you cut over to South Baldface. But otherwise, there's no water options up there at all. So I carried, I think, 4 liters. I had 2 Gatorades and 2 liters of water with me. And I was a little bit nervous about going up the ledges with the headlamp just because those ledges are a little tricky. I don't know if you guys have done them, but they're a little tricky to navigate. But it was almost a full moon. And by the time I got to the ledges at 4 a.m, it was the sunrise was starting to come up, and I still had my headlamp on. By the time I got up to the top of the ledges, I shut my headlamp off. It didn't need it anymore. And then you could see the sunrise coming up above me, and I got up to Salt Baldface at perfect time. I had maybe about a half hour before the sun came up, but I could see the pre-sun And then the sun just popped right up through the clouds, and I just sat there until maybe about 6. And then after that, I was in perfect position. So the start of my trails that I maintain up there go from South Baldface over to Eagle Crag. So I had done all that work between south and north last year. So I knew that was mostly cleared out. There was a couple of blowdowns I had to take care of. There was like 5 or 6 sections that had grown in. It's crazy how much they grow in over the course of a year. So just a lot of brushing, and made my way over to North Baldface it was 4 hours. I was messing around between south and north, and then I got between north and the low coal, heading to Bicknell Ridge, cleared out all those areas, and then started seeing people. And then by that point, I ran out of water, and then I had to get down. So, but it's mostly clear.
Nice. Yeah, you shared a nice reel of the sunrise there. It looked really pretty up there in the morning.
I'm learning on my Instagram not to move too quickly, Nick. I do one minute perfectly.
It's tough to do the slow pan. It takes a long time. Even I go too fast sometimes too. It's tough to really lock it in. You realize how much better the quality looks when you go a little bit slower too with that. But you did good. I appreciated the music selection and everything. I thought it was quite nice. Yeah,
it was pretty good. Yeah, I did Only the Young by Journey for my music selection, which is good. Yeah. But it was nice. It's very. I enjoy the lopper and just clipping away at the trails. I like basically my system with the trails at this point is I kind of walk the trail, and if anything touches my legs, then immediately it gets cut. Right. And then if anything hits my shoulders or my head or anything like that, and then it gets hit. And then I look at the corridor, and then after that, I do what I call the Peter test. And the Peter test is basically, is there anything above my head, like a foot above my head, that might get hit? And I'll make sure I clear that. So guys, the listeners that are here, Peter is like super tall. What are you, like 6'6", Peter?
6'5", yeah.
6'5".
I shrunk a little bit, but.
Right. Yeah. So that'll happen. But so I make sure that I clear like the higher parts, and for the most part, it's mostly clear. It's a 2.5 mile section of trail, and I've got maybe a 1/4 mile to 3/8 of a mile that I've got to go back and do like 6 or 7 sections. So I'll do that in September.
Awesome. And the Baldface Loop over your trail was like last weekend, I think, or 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, it was like last weekend. So I don't know if they go up there and do any work. I didn't see anything.
That was going to be my question.
I didn't see them do anything. Maybe they cleared some blowdowns. I didn't see anything. I had to do a couple of blowdowns, and I did actually do a little bit of cairn work up there, just building up one cairn that had to get fixed. But otherwise, that trail was in good shape. So I think if I finish in September, I have a feeling that after that'll be 6 sessions over the last 2 years. So I've done 3 sessions last year, and then I'll have done 3 sessions this year, May, July, and May, August, and September. So that's basically what it took to do 2.5 miles. And I think next year should just be a single trip to just brush back anything that came through, and then maybe deal with blowdowns over the winter if they come through. But I really haven't had many blowdowns in the winter either up there.
Yeah, I'd be curious if you see years where it seems like it grows more. It seems like with my trail, it's been like every other. I'm sure it's just totally dependent upon rain, probably. But the way it's worked out, it's like every other year I've gone up there, it seems to grow more. And mine's all crumbles too. It's not you have like actual more trees and stuff that grow up there. But it is kind of interesting to see how like months apart how much it grows in. It's kind of cool to be like, oh man, I didn't expect this much. But I'm curious what it'll look like year to year. I'm sure you'll notice with like seasonal trends doing it long enough, like if you get a lot of rain, maybe it grows more, or if it's a cooler summer or things like that. It's kind of interesting to see the ecosystem up there.
Right. I think that the plan will be to just do this last session in September, get everything good, and then do another session in May of next year. And if that's all good, then I'll talk to AMC and maybe I can grab another section, because I think Bicknell Ridge, there's some actually that looks pretty good, but there's some sections below South Baldface that probably could get some work done. So I'll talk to AMC and see what they have available. So,
and while we're on the topic too, of trail maintenance, our buddy Craig just sent out his August sort of reminder: check in and submit those trail reports if you've been out there doing trail maintenance, folks. Because I think he's looking for some. It seems like there's like 20% or so of people haven't submitted any work reports, and he knows that most of us have gotten out there by this point in the summer at least once. So just a friendly reminder.
Yeah. I like immediately submit mine because I want credit.
Yeah. You're like the dude. Were you the favorite kid in class too?
I don't know. I just I have to submit it because I'm like, if I didn't submit it, then it doesn't get tracked and then I don't get credit.
Yeah, I need to be better. I usually do. I did it within a week or so this time, but I've definitely let it go for a month or two before.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Future plans, people. So, Peter, I know you had talked about potentially checking out the Mount Washington car race that's going to be going on this weekend. Any other plans for you, Peter?
Going out to Portland, Oregon for a week coming up.
Nice.
I mean, family trip. So, hope is to get out to do a little bit of hiking around Mount Hood if we can. Not obviously going up Mount Hood, but there's a lot of waterfalls, and Columbia River Gorge is supposed to be really pretty. So, check that stuff out.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area for sure. And then, Jakester, any plans for you in the future?
Got an Acadia trip coming up in September. Got a rock climbing trip also in September. Other than that, play it by ear.
All right. And then, Nick, what do you got going on?
Nothing much. Might be looking at Blue Hills or something one day this week. And on the Acadia train, after chatting with you guys, we're gonna stay the first week of November. We got a rental, so we're gonna do a long weekend out in Acadia. So starting to look at that a little bit, but excited to check that out that time of year. So it should be fun.
Awesome. Yeah. And then I don't have I'm going to be up north, but I don't have any plans. I'm probably going to stick local somewhere in Western Maine, either Pleasant Mountain or Burnt Meadow, or maybe get up to Black Cap or one of those Green Hills hikes, maybe the Redstone, something like that. So the kids got some friends coming up and boyfriends and all that fun stuff. So nothing crazy. I can't take them on any big adventures, but I can take them on some small stuff.
Fun.
It's time for SLASR's Notable Hike of the Week. If you want to be considered for the Hike of the Week, simply tag SLASR on your social media post.
All right, so next up here, moving on, is Notable Listener Hike of the Week. If you want to get on this, you can tag SLASR on your adventure to be considered for SLASR's Hike of the Week. No guarantees. You'll be plugged on the show, but just put it in and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and throw it up on Instagram because we don't check Facebook as much. So here we go. Arlo the Beagle, Acadia National Park. It looks like they did Acadia Mountain, Door Mountain, Day Mountain, and Arlo became a certified bark ranger. That might just get the Hike of the Week right there for Mike, Arlo. Just because of certified bark ranger.
I see Arlo on our feed now on Instagram too. Yeah. He's like a member of the show now.
Yeah, we've been doing collaborations together. Yes. We love those collab posts. Cody, not in New York. Or NY, I guess. Huge bull moose in your territory, Mike. Huge bull moose on North Baldface from South Baldface. And I said, be careful
I saw
up there.
That.
This was
I saw that.
Cool.
He actually zoomed in. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I just replied to that. That was a good catch. I was actually sitting on South Baldface looking over at North, being like, maybe I'll see the moose, but I didn't see any signs of it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It just sort of wanders up there and then wanders back. Kind of neat. Folkstar, epic scramble up the head wall of Castle Ravine. This looked like a fun one. It looked very scenic and very green in there this time of year. That friggin' hiker, Carter Dome on the Path Less Travel. This was interesting. So he went up Bog Brook to Wildcat River Trail to Carter Mariah Trail up to Carter Dome. Then he went past Carter Dome to check out Mount Height, where he said there was fantastic views. Then he went back towards Carter Dome and down the Rainbow Trail. And he mentioned there was a really nice surprise viewpoint along the way down. And then he hopped back on Bog Brook, and it sounds like the heavens opened up on him on the way down. It said he wouldn't even mattered if he had his rain gear on, kind of style rain. And he was 35 out of 48, so he's getting there. So congrats. Our buddy Dan, Nook 603, the rower guy. Dan continues his rower journey with Moosalok for 11 out of 48. Nice job, Dan. Liz Fay joining Dave on the AT again in Vermont. Shared some pictures of Stratton Mountain and the Stratton Pond Shelter. So Stratton's cool. I played golf at the Stratton course once. I've never hiked it. I'll have to get back sometime. Our friend Cindy Hessian, Cindy Hess 7. I always say her Instagram handle name. She's up to 41 out of 48 with Cabot. She made a nice little reel and sent it to us. So thanks, Cindy. C. Gothberg, who always takes great photos. Interesting loop up Webster Cliff Trail all the way over to Crawford Path to the Mount Eisenhower Trail. Then back down through the Dry River Wilderness, looping back to his car. Just kind of a different loop. Pretty neat. Nice job. And then P.A. Tellier 1, Moosalok by the Beaver Brook Trail, which they mentioned was quite steeper than the other ways they've been at Moosalok. So who's got it this week?
I would say Folkstar on the Castle Ravine. That's always a fun one.
Cool. Yeah, it looked gorgeous in there. Looking at pictures at a glimpse, I would have thought it was King Ravine or something like that, but that's just boulders and the sites. But I'll have to get in there sometime.
Right. So, and Cindy's getting close, so we'll hold hers for 48.
And there was much rejoicing.
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
All right, so moving on, this is the, so we wanted to just continue on the Baxter State Park recap, so this will be part 2. This was day 2. We had split up, some of the crew went to North Brother, and then the rest of the crew went to explore some swimming and some waterfalls. So I guess Nick and Jake, why don't you guys break down, I guess, your trip up to North Brother, and then talk a little bit about how everyone was all gung-ho about, we're definitely going to do North Brother, and then after we did Katahdin, everybody was like, nobody's interested in doing a long hike.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny dynamic. I think we got back that night and I don't know, maybe I'll throw it to you, Jake. You can describe the dynamic of the group when we were kind of mentioning North Brother potential the next day.
I think pretty much everybody was like, yeah, I'm good, except for Paul. He's like, what are we walking tomorrow? Yeah, so Paul really wanted to hike, and I could have gone either way. If it was just going to be 2 of us, I was like, nah, I'll do the small thing with the waterfall. But if anybody else goes, all right, fine, I'll join in. And I don't think you had made a decision as of yet, Nick.
Yeah, I kind of, I think, was in the same boat as you. I'm like, I could go either. Like, it's supposed to be nice tomorrow. I'm like, I would like to hit it if someone wanted to. I don't know if I would have gone solo if everybody had decided not to go. But I also am kind of like the dog getting out of the yard sort of effective. Like, I'm trying to hike as much as possible probably while we're up there a little bit more. So I was in that boat. Yeah.
Plus it's a, Maine and New England 4K that I didn't have. So it was, that little carrot dangling. Yeah. But we decided to go for it, and it was a hot day.
Yeah, it started off quite steamy. Another little funny anecdote is, I don't know how far we got into the hike before Paul realized. I think he heard us say that he heard 3,000 feet or something to that effect, and this is when the keg was flowing and everything else was going on, so interpretations may have varied a little bit depending who you were listening to. But we were talking about the hike, and I'm like, I think it's like 8 or 9 miles and 3,000 feet, and Paul's like, 3,000 feet, like we can do that. And like, I don't know how far up we got before he realized that it was actually a 4,000 footer, and it wasn't just another 3,000 foot ish peak in Baxter State Park. So that was kind of funny. He's like, 3,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah, I think it was at that first major trail junction where it said at the plateau where it actually had the elevation of North and South Brother. North that way at whatever it was, 41, south that way at 39. He's like, this is a 4,000 footer? Yes.
Yeah, it's part of the appeal. That's why we're here.
Right.
But yeah, so we woke up. We didn't get a particularly early start. I think we left like around 9 or 10 o'clock, something like that. Yeah,
I don't think we left. It was definitely closer to, definitely after 9, closer to 10 when we left the campsite.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of forgot to, I also forgot sort of like it was a little bit of a ride just going to Roarenbrook the previous day, but from where we left the tote road, I want to say from where we were camping, it was almost 50 minutes, and it was about a 45-minute ride up the tote road, doing the speed limit that we, of course, were doing the whole way. But to get up there, and realistically, to be completely honest with people, like, you might be able to go 20 or 30 on some of the tote road, but it's so windy and dusty and like dirty. And if there's cars coming, you really can't make great time anyways. Probably took us about 40 minutes. You take a left once you get in the park at the tote road entrance. And kind of nice, you're just driving past a ton of ponds and different trailheads. And one thing I did want to call out is like I saw it once and was calling out to you guys, but the profile of Double Top when you're heading up from the tote road is like, it's just this like granite gumdrop Mount Crumpets type of looking thing that you see in the distance. It was really, really cool. And we were both like, what the hell is that?
Yep. Pull up the map. Yep. That's the Double Heads. It's fantastic. It's steep.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we got there, and like Jake mentioned, it was funny too. It was just very muggy and warm down in the woods. Like compared, not that it wasn't warm when we did Katahdin, but it seemed like especially sticky, kind of down low. And we were kind of near the river at first, which was nice. But then we ended up in sort of this place with like no breeze, just kind of quite toasty and humid. It got better as we got up higher. And how would you sort of describe? I mean, we were thinking about this, but how was the route up to North Brother itself, Jake?
So it was pretty interesting in that it wasn't the consistent climb that we're kind of used to. It was relatively flat and then almost straight up for 1,000 feet, and then relatively flat again. It was the climb up to the pond, then we were flat, and then we had to climb up again to the col or the plateau between north and south, and then another mile of flat, soft, padded trail. And then the last climb up to North Brother itself was, again, steep, just like we're used to in the Whites.
Yeah, it was a pretty good summary. There was one part I remember that stuck out in my brain when we're going, and we keep saying plateau, but it's like weird. When you get up to like North Brother, like before you get to the last junction, you're on the mile of like almost flat, like really beautiful bog bridges, and there's some really nice bridge work in there. But when you get up higher, it is weird. It's almost like this flat land. I mean, obviously, it's not totally flat, but it is almost like a plateau with like jumbled piles and little craggy peaks sticking out of it. Like when you look from Co to South Brother, North Brother, and Fort Peak. So that's what we kind of mean when we're talking about sort of that plateau. But yeah, just some steep little climbs. And this one spot, as you're heading on those bog bridges, you see left through like, it's got to be just an area of sort of blowdowns or whatever. But you can see like North Brother up, and we're still at like, I don't know if it's like 3,200 feet or whatever. And it ends up like you must go up like the last 700-800 feet and like point. It was probably like a half a mile, maybe less.
Yeah, I was thinking 0.5-ish.
Yeah, you're just sort of going up drainage and everything. It's pretty typical of White Mountain trails. I don't know if it reminded you anything particularly, Jake, but it kind of reminded me of the Kilkenny Range a little bit, like almost that washed out backside of Cabot, maybe a little bit more scrambly. A lot of ferns, very lush.
I would agree with that. Water trickling, even though it was dry everywhere, there was definitely water trickling down parts of that trail going up the final push on North Brother. Very, very lush, very wet.
Yeah, and I had done North Brother like 5-ish years ago, give or take. And I kind of forgotten, like, it is just a jumbled pile. Excuse me. I think like many of those main peaks up there, but just a jumbled pile of boulders. So you have pretty much you break tree line a couple hundred feet below the actual top of the summit itself. But great views out to like, yeah, you could see Katahdin and the Tablelands. We were kind of looking around, you could see like Double Top and that whole range. What really stuck out to me too is how much like I think even Paul might have called it out, but like Co itself, like the ridge, like it looked like an open, like a little mini Franconia Ridge or something. Like a lot of those ridge lines, it looks like all of them must have open summits. I think we did South, but I don't really remember, and I definitely haven't done Co. But it's kind of funny how all those summits, as you start to look closer, they all because the tree line and the weather up there, because we're so much further north, must just like hit stuff a little bit lower, and everything's just wide open and kind of just scarred open. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely looked very, like you said, Franconia Ridge-ish. A lot of open tree line. Looking forward to actually getting back there and doing some of that sometime.
Yeah, 100%. It looks like it'd be a fun traverse. Probably a harder, again, like with, it seems like a lot of stuff in Baxter, like harder than the numbers would indicate. But I think we both ended up with around 9 miles and 3,200 feet, which is a little bit more than the book had for this.
Right around there.
Teardrop Pond is the name of the pond that you actually hit in the middle, which I thought was cool. And Steve of Steve Eats Shit had an encounter with a moose here a couple of years ago and actually got charged by one. So we were kind of on alert of being like, I hope we see one across the pond, but not on the trail directly behind us. But a really pretty spot in itself if you just wanted to hike up there and you didn't feel like going to North Brother. It's this nice little bowl kind of in the area. I think other than that, it was kind of a not exciting in a good way. We kind of all got up there. We hung out for a bit. Saw a couple people on trail, not many at all compared to the day before.
Yeah, not a ton at all.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 or 9 cars in the parking lot total.
Yeah, something like that. And we noted this in the last episode too, but just like you don't need a parking pass to hike. This is the Marston Trailhead. You don't need a parking pass at any time to hike here. You do still have to pay the gate pass to sort of just get into the park, but that's all you got to do. And I would imagine like we hit it on a Saturday, so I would imagine that if you hit it on a Saturday morning, we were late there, like, and it was that crowded in the summer, like it's probably not getting a ton of traffic. Mostly people just sort of peak bagging.
So that's an option then, basically, if you're going to do a weekend up at Baxter and you need your plan B, so you can get in line to see if you want to get to Roaring Brook. And if you don't get Roaring Brook, then you could head over to the Tote Road past A-Ball, and then you have a bunch of options with the Marston Trail. You've got Daicy Pond that we're going to talk about, and then that double top hike. So there's a lot of good options for hikes as a consolation prize if you can't get Katahdin. And then in theory, you could also park over Daicy Pond and just go up to Baxter Peak out and back via the what is that, the Hunt Trail, I think that they call it.
Yeah.
So you definitely got some options. But yeah, pretty uneventful on the way down. I think we all filled up water at like the last stream we crossed. Like Jake said, it was flowing pretty good everywhere, despite seemingly being dry, I guess. And I mean, it is like almost August, late July, so happens. And yeah, and then we had some beers that I brought at a picnic table in the shade because it had gotten pretty toasty down low by that point. And then we hopped in the Togue Pond on the way out, which is right by that Togue Pond gate, which was a nice, refreshing dip. And I hadn't showered or bathed all weekend too, so that was sort of my shower for the last.
Yeah, we knew. We could tell.
Yeah,
we could tell. Believe me, we all knew that. All right, and then while you guys were doing that, the smart people were having a swimming adventure. So, Peter, what was that all about? So we decided to not do any more crazy hiking. We did it one day, and then we were old and we're tired. We just wanted to get in the river. So what did we end up doing?
Yeah, in preparation for the trip, I had mapped out, like, here's a bunch of different smaller options. Originally, I was thinking when we went up there Thursday night, if we got there early enough, go into the park and explore something. But one of the options that I had found using Google AI was Big Niagara and Little Niagara Falls. So you go in, you take that same tote road like you were going up to Marston Trail that Jake and Nick and Paul followed, and at some point you follow it south to Daicy Pond Campground. Again, no parking pass needed to get in there. You need your entrance pass to actually get into the park. But once you park there, parking for maybe a dozen cars, if I remember. There were a couple of open spots when we were there. We got a slightly later start than they did. We got them out of camp first, and then we headed over, 7 of us in one car. About a little bit less than a mile and a half each way to go down from the pond campground down to the falls. Mostly flat, kind of descends a little bit right at the end. And I would say, best way to describe it is you go down, you're running parallel to the river, and at varying spots along the trail, there's spots to go out and look at the river, or where you land for Big Niagara ultimately is at the bottom. So we took the opportunity there to do a little floating.
Right, yeah, exactly. And like there wasn't that many people around. There was a few people around, but we figured out like a way to just repel everybody was we all just stripped down our underwear and went swimming, and there was just 6 or 7 dad bods floating in the river, and everyone just like avoided that area while we were there, which was great.
Yeah, and we hadn't showered in 3 days, so once the oil slick had kind of moved off of us, the water was cold, but not so cold you couldn't sit in it, and it was nice and refreshing. So
it was perfect. Obviously there's a million great watering holes in New Hampshire, but this is like I would say it was kind of slow moving. There was a couple of different deeper pools that you get into and ease yourself in, but like you could sort of sit halfway in, halfway out of the water, and then the sun was beating right down on us. So it was a perfect day. It was a perfect way to do it. So I think that the Baxter, basically one group doubled down and they did 2 epic hikes. And then the other group, the smart group was what I would call them, did the epic hike and then did the relaxing swim, and then no pressure. And we got back, and then we ended up going to, so it was like a 3.5 mile total hike there. And then we ended up going back to New England Outdoor Center afterwards, and we enjoyed beer and pizza, and then we were able to take a shower there. So they have showers in the bathroom there. So it's $5 to take a shower. So we had scouted that out before on Friday night. So on Sunday, was it Sunday or Saturday? I can't remember.
This
Thursday
was Saturday.
Yeah. So we had scouted it out, and then Saturday we were all able to take showers and get somewhat clean, and then head out to the cabin afterwards. But you guys came a little bit later, right, Nick? You came probably a few hours after us.
Yeah, I mean, we got back before you guys got back to the house, but yeah, maybe missed you by a couple hours. I wanted to call it another little funny thing is Steve, who's just witty and funny, was like, well, I didn't have showering at a brewery on my 2026 bingo card. Because technically, like that New England Outdoor Center is like everything. It's like you can buy stuff there, you can shower there, you can get a beer there and a pizza. It's a pretty neat place.
Yeah, which is great. And then, so that was it. And then I guess, Nick, you had a couple of different bullet points here that you wanted to cover about just around camp itself. So what else you have?
Yeah, so this was funny. I think this was Saturday night.
Yes, it was.
But like shortly, Mike would probably know better than me just based on memory. But like right after I went to bed, I think it was maybe around 10 o'clock or somewhere in that time frame. Like something just felt like you could hear a loud bang in the woods. And I was chatting with you, and first of all, I heard Steve just say in his tent, like, we'll bleep this out, but he goes, what the f*** was that? And like nobody said anything, and I'm like, I guess we'll just going back to sleep. We're probably all fine. But then I got over to Mike's. I saw Mike waking up in the morning. I was walking over there, and he's like, did you see that like giant widowmaker that almost killed me last night?
Yeah, it was closest to me for sure. I don't know how close it was, but it was like enough to give me pause a little bit. I was like, it wouldn't be cool if that happened like right on top of my hammock. But because I was the only one that was kind of in the woods. You guys were like kind of close to the cabin itself. So, but I guess the trees could have fallen on any of us. But yeah, that was a little disturbing. Yeah,
so that was kind of funny. And then we got so lucky with the weather, but I was really determined on that last night out there. We had spotted a place that I saw would have good potential to sort of shoot the Milky Way and some night photos along the Golden Road, maybe like a 2 or 3 minute ride up. So finally on Saturday, knowing that we were just leaving the next day, or I guess technically this was early Sunday morning, woke up around 2 o'clock, finally got out of my tent like 1:15 or so, timed it just after the moon set and got out, headed up Golden Road to the spot and was setting up my camera, and immediately was just like terrified because it sounded like someone just threw a giant rock in the water in front of me. And then it happened 2 more times. And at that point, I straight up ran back into my car. I was not trying to be brave. I was like, is there going to be a moose that I'm going to see in the water? Maybe there's a Bigfoot throwing rocks at me. When you're in the middle of the dark in that area of Maine by yourself, your brain goes a little wild. But I settled down for a few minutes, and I remembered Peter's story about you thinking that out camping in the past, and that it was... And we had actually seen a little bit of foreshadowing earlier in the week. We saw that one of the culverts between Compass Pond and River Pond, just up the street from us, was being blocked by all logs and stuff. So it's definitely beaver activity up there. And I kind of was like, it's probably just a beaver smacking its tail on the water. And I added a YouTube link in the notes. If nobody's ever heard what it sounds like, it does sound exactly like someone's throwing a good sized rock in the water in front of you. And the way that it echoes across the water too probably made it seem way more dramatic to me. And being unexpected. But I did compose myself going back to the car and got out and shot some photos. I've been kind of sharing those on Instagram and sharing them with SLASR. But some of the darkest skies I've ever seen, kind of on the Bordeaux class scale up there, is one of the darkest places for sure in the Northeast. You'd have to go further into Canada, quite a ways north, to actually get darker than where that area around Katahdin is. So super impressive. I don't think I've shot that many stars before, and already thinking what I could do next time, but just really beautiful up there if you're into stargazing or whatever at all. It's kind of premier skies for that. So almost had a heart attack from the beavers, scaring. And I think that was it. I was going to kind of ask, maybe we'll go with you, Peter, because you organize. Any sort of reflections on the whole trip? Anything to improve upon for next year? Any kind of second thoughts? No? I think it went really well. Yeah,
I think everything went really well. Everybody contributed, to the trip. I think everybody had a good time. We did what we wanted to do, even if we did split up the second day. I don't think anybody was, upset by that.
I'm really upset you guys didn't join us.
Just let it out now.
Yeah.
Airing grievances.
We ate well, we drank well, we probably didn't sleep as well as we could have, but but that's typical of that type of trip. So
yeah, right on. Any other final thoughts on the trip?
I just like to say that like guys get like knocked about like not being like organized or planning and all this stuff. I thought that we were like the super planners. We could have been doing a bachelorette party. We were so planned out that weekend. So, but we all did good. Like all came together. It's a little chaotic. I think that like, we all just sort of verified one thing and everybody followed through. So it was a good group of people. I would definitely travel with you guys again for sure. So next time we got to do something maybe out of New England and do something maybe on the West Coast or something, but we'll figure it out. But I liked that everyone was cool. All the food was great. The bear connection, Jake was on point. The only issue that I had, really my biggest gripe, is the absolute disrespectful and offensive behavior towards my music selection. It was unacceptable. And I will not stand for it ever again. So I'm going to basically toss everybody's speakers into the woods next time and only run my speakers and listen to all my country music.
We'll see how that works.
All right. I'm talking to you, Jake.
I wasn't the only one.
I know. Unfortunately, Jackson has been tarnished against me too. So I got work my way back to earn his respect.
He had one of the best. We can't say it on the podcast, but he had one of your. I mean, yeah, we're not gonna say it, but he had one of the best. Granted, he had said he had heard it somewhere before, but how quickly he said it to you was, oh man,
so
it was good.
Funny.
It was a moment of the trip. It was funny.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. I appreciate having the younger people there too. They keep you honest, I will say. So he's a good man. So anyway, but I think that this will do it, Nick. We're up against time, and we can do the remaining search and rescue stuff. Maybe next episode. But yeah, so we learned about Baxter State Park again. We learned about search and rescues. We got Dave Schitt's updates. We got the mystery of the ice hole in Wakefield. We'll come back with your music minute on the next episode, and that's about it. So we accomplished a lot here tonight, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Well done, guys.
Okay, this is 241, and we will see you next episode.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.